Hi guys, I'm Greg Howlett, and I want to take a moment and give you a quick tip for those of you that write or arrange. And by the way, if you do write or arrange, don't forget we're running a contest this year at greghowlett.com on my blog. You can win $1,000 if you enter that contest. Go check that out if you're not already planning on doing that. Today I just want to give you a simple tip about ornamentation, or sometimes what we call grace notes. Now this is the sound we're talking about. And really all we're doing here is we're inserting a few notes, maybe one, maybe two or three notes in front of a target note, just to get a slightly more interesting sound. For example, this is a D chord. The F sharp is our melody. So I'm just going to throw a few notes in front of it, one or more notes in front of it that don't change the timing of the song. The F sharp is going to remain in the same spot within the framework of the time of the song. Actually, to be technical about it, we're going to steal a few milliseconds from the note in front of that F sharp so that the F sharp is played at exactly the right time. But these notes are played very, very fast. Again, this is ornamentation that you might have seen in other music. Bach used it a lot in his music, and it's been around a while. And so this is a little simple primer on how to do it. And let me give you a few quick thoughts. The big thing about this is there's no really hard, fast rules. Really, your style, your personal style, and what you like is going to sort of define how you do this. But I'll give you a few thoughts just to whet your appetite a little bit and get you going, priming the pump. First of all, let me define two quick terms for you. You have diatonic and chromatic. Most of the time, I play what's called diatonic grace notes, or diatonic ornamentation. And when I say diatonic, I mean I'm using notes that belong to the key. For example, we're in the key of D here, and I'm going to play the notes that belong to the D major scale. In this case, my target is F sharp, so I'm going to play an A and a G, as opposed to, let's say, a B flat and an A flat. Now you can do that if you want, but I'm choosing to do a diatonic run. So I will use notes that come from the scale of the key. If I go from the bottom, I'm going to use a D and an E as opposed to an E flat and a D flat. Okay, so that's called a diatonic ornamentation. And I tend to do that. Now, you don't have to do that. You can use chromatic ornamentation as well. Chromatic ornamentation simply means you're going to use any note. And in a lot of cases, you'll hear this kind of thing. Something like that, which is a cool sound. It's a sophisticated sound, and I'm basically playing any note to approach my F sharp. It doesn't mean you have to play them all in order or every single note. Something like that is fine. I played a B flat, A flat, so I left out A, and then G and F sharp. That's still called chromatic ornamentation because I'm using any note. You can do the same thing from the bottom as well. Now, chromatic ornamentation is slightly more sophisticated. It has a more noticeable sound, and that brings me to really the overall rule about ornamentation is this: you can't overdo it. If you overdo it, then all of a sudden you have a problem. And especially with chromatic ornamentation, you got to be careful not to overdo it, or your music will take on a certain quality that you may not like so much. And that's all I'll say about that. Now, we've talked about diatonic versus chromatic, but let me also say that there's no really hard, fast rules about whether you approach from the top or the bottom. Again, there's no hard and fast rule about how many notes are in the run. You can do sort of strange things. This isn't really strange, but it's different. In this case, I'm actually going to play down toward it, but then I'm going to skip past it and then come back to it. So in this case, my approach note is F sharp. I played an A, G, E, F sharp. There's nothing to stop you from doing the old-fashioned trill, which I do as well. That isn't a great application for it, but there's nothing. And so on. You can do the trill. The trill is just another category of ornamentation where you actually go to the target, play away from the target, and come back. That's all a trill really is. Let me play a whole verse of a song, and you'll sort of get an idea for how much ornamentation like this I use. Again, this is a stylistic thing, but in my case, I tend to use it a little bit judiciously. This is a song called I Surrender All. Now, right off the start, you hear me here doing a little bit of a ornamentation there. That's a little trill. Another, anything like that works. So I've got 4 of them so far. Nice one there. So I played 2 of them in succession there. Okay. Again. That sounded a little bit like ornamentation, but it really wasn't. It's inner voice movement. So I think that's 1, 2, 3, like 7 times I used ornamentation through that take of that song. For me, that feels about right. If I go too much past that, it starts to feel maybe a little too predictable and maybe a little honky-tonk. So I avoid that. Not that there's anything wrong with honky-tonk. If you like it, I do too. But in general, that's not really the sound I'm going for. Hope that helped you, and I hope to see you again in another video coming up, which will probably be next week.